We're back out here once again, and today we're talking about these little guys. That's right, bladed jigs. And I have got some tips, tricks, and hacks I'm sure you don't know. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one.
Come on, I got him. There's that grass. Oh, that's a fish. Well, he's trying to dig, trying to get away. That's a nice...
And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured on an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and today we're talking all about this little guy. That's right, the chatterbait, the bladed jig, the vibrating jig, whatever you want to call it. It is an important part of your fish catching arsenal. And for a lot of guys, well, it's a staple of what they're throwing when they go out on the lake. However, for some anglers, they just can't seem to buy a bite when it comes to fishing one. So today I'm going to be covering some tips, tricks, and hacks that I know that I'm sure a lot of you don't know, and a couple of them because I made them up. But we are going to illustrate just how wide-ranging and versatile a chatterbait can truly be under so many different conditions in so many different ways, including a few ways I'm sure you never even saw before, and it's going to blow your mind. So the first thing we want to talk about is the blade itself. This is the part that makes it all work. This is what puts everything into motion, is that blade. It dictates the flash, it dictates the thump, and a lot of times it can dictate the action in the water. So what we need to worry about is this blade. Is this blade giving us exactly what we need underwater? Do we have the right size? Do we have the right type? And do we have the right color? Now, in a previous video I talked about taking a Sharpie and coloring your blades in on your spinner baits and underspins and even your bladed jigs. And here's an example. This is just a regular chatterbait that I've taken the blade and I've colored it black with a Sharpie, as I've shown you before, and I use this whenever I don't want as much flash on a clear day, on a sunny sky day. We've got Jane clear water, and a lot of times we'll have slick, calm surface. So I don't want a lot of flash because with this bait I'm already creating a lot of movement and a lot of noise. So I don't need a lot of flash, because otherwise, as we've talked about before, we will be overpowering those fish's senses, and rather than enticing bites, we'll just be driving them off. Yes, if you throw it right in their face and it just happens to land on top of them, you can and probably will get a reaction strike. But that is generally few and far between. For the most time, we want to be able to work this through the water column in such a way to entice those bass from a distance. You want to get them to notice your lure, you want to get them to be attracted to your lure, and we don't want to overpower those fish's senses. So that's why I have this colored in black. It's super easy to do, and when you're done, you can just take an alcohol wipe and it comes perfectly clean. That's why, I talk about things like this. This is something you can buy even. You don't even have to take a Sharpie and color them in. You can buy painted blades, and I love them. I've actually gotten to where I prefer a painted blade a lot of the time, like I said, especially on those clear sunny days and that water is very calm. So step one, make sure that your blade is the way it needs to be. If you're not taking that into account, well, a lot of times you're just defeating the purpose of having a chatterbait on to begin with. The blade is the most important part, and you need to make sure that you're getting it right. Now, next up, we're going to be talking about different types of trailers. And you can see right here, I've got the brown Thunder Cricket, and I've got a blue Rage Grub as the trailer. And a lot of times, you can do a goofy combination like this, especially if you're fishing, more shaded areas, murkier areas, or like early in the morning or even in the evening. There are times when this can work well. I've even caught fish with it in the middle of the day, when the water was nice and calm. So it's okay to mix and match the colors of your bladed jig and the color of your trailer. I was looking more for a little bit different color. That peanut butter and jelly has been a real good color on the big lake lately, so I kind of wanted to emulate that just a little bit. I didn't have any purple, you know, trailers that I wanted to put on here, so this is what I used. And these make great trailers. Don't overlook a grub trailer. Something like a Rage grub or something like a Fat Albert can even be effective. They don't really impact the way this thing moves in the water, and which we're about to talk about, because the trailer you put on this thing and how it moves through the water is very, very important. And if you'll notice, one thing about how I fish a bladed jig is you never see me fishing them with a boot tail style bait, with one exception. But every other time, if I'm throwing it like this on a bait cast, I might have something that's got a little bit of kick, a little bit of flap, but for the most part, I'm going with something that has a fluke style body, a very slender body. I've even used something like a Senko because I don't want to inhibit the action of this bait going through the water. I want it to dance, I want it to dart, I want it to be completely random. I want to be able to pop it like I do a swim jig. I want to be able to twitch it almost like I would a jerk bait. It's a very versatile way of retrieving, and varying up your retrieve is a surefire way to get more bites, especially on those tough days, those pressured days. Now, take this guy for example, right? This is a Jackhammer Stealth by Z-Man, and you can see that blade is small and plastic and see-through. This has got a lot less thump, and it has virtually no flash. There's a little bit, I mean, if the sun hits it just right, and maybe glinting off of the hardware, but for the most part, this is not going to have any flash. So I've got a couple of things covered right off the bat whenever I'm fishing certain types of water. Water that's very clear, very calm, water that can be very pressured. But the type of trailer I'm going to be putting on that is, well, I could use something like this, and this is just a Zoom Super Fluke. These make excellent chatterbait trailers. If you're not using this as your chatterbait trailer, a fluke style bait, I'm telling you, tie one on and look at the difference at how your bladed jig moves in the water. But another thing that I like to do is, well, I've got this right here, a D-Bomb by Missile Baits. And this is the main trailer that I use whenever I'm fishing the Jackhammer Stealth. It's basically a flipping and pitching bait, isn't it? I don't know if you call it a beaver style bait or a creature style bait, but it's different. This is something that you would use more for flipping and pitching, you know, into flooded brush, even punching. But I find it makes a great chatterbait trailer. As a matter of fact, most of the fish catches that you've seen me record on this channel have been with this exact trailer. So I'm just going to thread it on, and you can see I'm threading it on this way. Not this way, but this way. And there's a reason I want that, because I want that bait to be flat like this, right? You want to get it on there straight. You want to get it on there straight, as straight as you can, right? I've got that, but this is not going to have much kick in it. It's not going to have much drag, much resistance in the water. It's still going to have a good bit of movement, especially because this thing is doing like this all in the water. So that's going to be going all over the place. So having a boot tail on this would just defeat the purpose. It would make it, just turn it into a stick, essentially. It would be a vibrating stick. And, you know, it's probably going to catch a lot fewer fish.
So that is the deal. That's a little bit better one right there.
Now, one of the most important things that we need to consider is the size of the bait that we're throwing. And, you know, not just for the weight, but also for that underwater profile. A bigger bait is not going to catch as many fish, but it may catch donkeys. Although I've seen bass go after baits that are twice as big as they are. However, I'm usually starting out with something like this. This is a 1/4 ounce bladed jig. One I made myself, but you know, whether it's a thunder cricket, whether it's a slobber knocker or a chatterbait or whatever, you know, it's going to work. A 1/4 ounce bait, especially up shallow, around flooded brush, up under docks, you know, you're in 5-6 feet of water tops. This is going to work amazingly well because you don't have to worry about keeping it down low. As that thing gets cranked under the water and that blade starts, you know, doing its thing, what's going to happen is that's going to generate lift, and it's going to make that bait rise. That's where the weight of the bait comes in, you know. Now, a smaller weighted bait will generally have a shorter, smaller profile, and that's true of this too. So this one's going to have a smaller profile, which in turn can be more appealing to a more diverse type of bass. So, you know, we can cover shallow water, we can do it quickly, and we can present our baits trying to get the greatest amount of bites possible. So that's one reason why we would want to choose that. Now, if we want to go heavier, say a 3/8 ounce or a half ounce size, those are more effective for fishing deeper cover, deeper water. Now, you can fish shallow with them. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to bear in mind that that heavier weight, that heavier size is going to make a bigger splash. And a lot of times bass don't want that big splash. You want to be like a diver at the Olympics. You want to make the smallest splash you possibly can, because that way, you know, the bass just see the bait rocketing by their face. They don't know that it came above the surface. As far as they know, it was right there the entire time. They're just now noticing it. So take care when you're picking what size chatterbait you're using, that you do it for the right reasons, not just for the size of the bait you want to represent, but also for the fall rate, because fall rate really matters. Now, this last one is going to blow a lot of anglers' minds. They don't even know it exists, but it is still very much a true bladed jig. What is it? Well, it's this guy right here, a swim bait jig head with a chatterbait blade on it. This is the Z-Man Chatterbait Willow Vibes, and it's 1/8 ounce head, and this is just, that's all it is just a swim bait head with a bladed jig on it. This is the exception I was talking about earlier. When I was saying that there was an exception to when I would put a boot paddle style bait on a chatterbait, this is it. And the reason being is not because I think it'll inhibit the action. As a matter of fact, that is pretty much the reason why I want to, because I'm not trying to look to be an erratic bait fish, you know, moving crazily. This, I'm fishing more inside those schools of shiner and shad. I can cast out to them. I know that those schools are there, and I know that bass are busting up around them, and I can put this in there and I can swim it through. And the funny thing is a lot of times I will have shad and shiner. I will have them following this bait as I bring it back to the boat, as though it's part of their school, you know, and they're attracted to it. They want to see where it goes. And that's how I get bites on it. I slow roll it, just a steady, slow roll retrieve. I treat it exactly as I would any other type of paddle tail, you know, Kitech style swim bait. And I'm telling you what, I have caught some donkeys on this little thing. I've caught a few dinks, but I've caught a lot of donkeys on this little thing. So this is one of those ways that a chatterbait is so versatile. But it doesn't end there. In case you were wondering, yes, we can go even smaller, even more finesse. And this is a 3/16 ounce swim bait head that has just a regular small Z-Man chatterbait on it. And you can see I've got this rigged with a Fluke Junior. This one here, I'm actually more going to jig than I am going to swim, because it tends to be just too light to swim it. It wants to rise too much into the water column. And for where I'm fishing this, I want it to stay deeper. So what I do is I'll cast this out and I'll let it sink for a little bit. And it takes a minute for it to get there, but you know, nothing too extravagant. And then I kind of pop the line a little bit. I kind of twitch it and pop it a little bit. And I've got a finesse setup here. I've got 10-pound braid on a spinner. You know, you guys know the deal by now. 6-pound monofilament, you know, and it's my standard finesse setup. But I just cast this thing out, let it sink, and I just pop it around, almost like I'm doing a Demiki rig, you know, like you're doing a Demiki rig, like you're doing a hover rig. But this is a completely different type of profile, because this gives off more flash and more vibration, which that deeper water, that deeper, darker water, you know, that little bit of flash, that little bit of vibration can give you the edge when it comes to getting bites over a normal Kitech style swim bait. So, you know, don't sleep on these. These are amazing little baits. And when I found these, I was like, oh yeah, I've got to have them. And I got a few of them, and I can't, you know, I can't say I was disappointed. You can see how beat up this one is, that I've put it through the ringer quite a few times. It's caught me some nice fish. And this thing has caught some nice fish, especially now, as we've talked about before, those bait fish, those new fry, they're very tiny. And this matches that. This little, you know, Fluke Junior, this thing matches that a lot better than some of the other swim bait style baits that I want to put on here. So don't count these out. If you see these, they're pretty cheap. They're a couple of bucks, so you can pick them up. And I'm telling you what, you will not be disappointed at how well these catch fish. So there you have it. Some really easy and very effective ways to work a chatterbait. You know, you can change the trailer, you can change the blade size, you can change the jig head size, and you can alter your retrieve accordingly. And doing that, using the entire spectrum that's at your disposal with a vibrating jig, will open up just so many different possibilities when it comes to being out on the water. You will catch so many more fish, and having more ways to fish a bait always gives you more options, especially when you don't want to be locked into one thing, because sometimes, you know, those bass just don't want to bite. This will help you over that hump. So give them a try. I know that you'll love them. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.